To begin with, I will say that normally we should have another speaker. It's the French ambassador, Laurent Pic, and he is not with us today, unfortunately, but he was kind enough trying to share some thoughts. So I will ask Sylvain, that you already listened to him with this current hat, trying to share the thoughts of Ambassador Laurent Pic.
I will just read a few lines that he sent by email. He apologized for not being here. He was tested positive, so he needs to stay in his hotel room. He was invited because he was chair of the small working group of the ICAO Council that worked on the governance of cybersecurity in ICAO. And the result of this work was already presented by the president with the cybersecurity panel and the ad hoc committee, ad hoc technical coordination committee of the council on cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is a challenge in terms of organization for states as well as for international bodies such as ICAO. It is scattered all around and it requires different types of expertise coming from different backgrounds. ICAO is no exception to this. Cybersecurity is dealt with in a lot of different panels, which depends on the ANC, Air Navigation Commission. It also linked to unlawful interferences and as such is linked to the Council through the Aviation Security Committee. In the Secretariat, it is the competence of both the Air Transport Bureau and the Air Navigation Bureau. In the context of the adoption of the cybersecurity strategy and cybersecurity action plan, the Council, end of the 2010s, decided that a new organization was needed to ensure a better coordination within the organization, as well as a real oversight by the Council. It ordered a feasibility study in order to propose to the Council the best options. That feasibility study was not easy to finalize, as the Council initially rejected the proposals presented by the Secretariat. The President of the Council decided to task a few Council and ANC members to work on this, and Ambassador Laurent Pic had the privilege of coordinating this work. The result of it was first to better establish the work of two study groups of the Secretariat, which are playing a key role: the Secretariat Study Group on Cybersecurity and the Trust Framework Study Group. The transformation of those groups into panels, Cybersecurity panel on one hand, and a panel under the Air Navigation Commission on the other hand, will allow for clearer reporting lines, greater transparency and accountability, and better ownership of those bodies. The panel working on the trust framework will in particular get a mandate from the Air Navigation Commission, a job card, and will better report to it. Every council session, we see that the former setting created difficulties and was preventing moving forward this important work. There was a need to change it. But this was not enough. Council needed also to ensure that a proper coordination mechanism was in place in order to make sure that we cover all the scope, that there are no loopholes and there are no redundancies in the work of ICAO. This is why it was proposed that an ad hoc coordination committee under the Council be established. It will be composed of representatives of each body in the organization dealing with an aspect of cybersecurity, sitting around the same table and sharing their work. They will establish a work program for cybersecurity complementing the strategy and the action plan. They will be in capacity to make recommendations to the Council. The implementation for this is progressing well. We need to get started now. So thank you very much. This was on behalf of Ambassador Laurent Pic.
Thank you very much. Thank you for him, and we will convey your thanks. And thank you, Sylvain, for ensuring with our French accent that his thoughts were shared with the room. As you may see, even at ICAO level or here in the roundtable that you have seen this morning, we can see some common conclusions, some common thoughts in terms of coordination, in terms of governance. So in fact, the problems that we are facing are almost the same one. So I will ask my director, Mr. Mohamed Rahma, to give us some thoughts from the roundtable that most of you attended this morning. Thank you.
So actually this morning we had a very interesting discussion and a lot of commonalities between all the states that have expressed their views on the developing a cybersecurity strategy. I remember the first word that I heard from His Excellency, Mr. Saif Swedi, that it was a challenge to build this cybersecurity strategy. It's not an easy at all to start this strategy from scratch. And what I've heard also is that to have a systematic approach, a systematic national approach to cybersecurity is really an essential building block to that strategy. So whenever you have laws or whenever you have specific entity that is in charge of cybersecurity, this facilitates the work of the civil aviation authorities to build their own cybersecurity strategy. I've heard also the views that better coordination at the state level is an essential part of drafting this cybersecurity strategy, because there is a lot of stakeholders that are involved, not only civil aviation, but also other authorities inside each state. But one most important factor is that although this work has been done on the national level, it is a regional and a global issue to have a global cybersecurity strategy. And I was discussing with some of the panelists after the panel, can you think that you feel that you are secure, you are having a good cybersecurity strategy, but then your people and your fleet are touring the world. So if the world is not safe, you are not safe. So we have to focus on this global nature of cybersecurity strategy. We need to share more information, we need to do better coordination, we need to do more of information sharing, and we have heard also the industry, especially the manufacturers, Airbus and Boeing that were in the panel today, they were seeking more information to make sure that they build this resilience into the aircraft they are building to face those cybersecurity threats. So this global mechanism, I think ICAO should play an important role in that and be the platform of information sharing and also sharing of expertise. And also I heard today the issue of knowledge sharing. So it's not only capacity building, but also for states to support other states. And we have some very successful mechanisms in ICAO in different domains, safety, security, environment, where states who are capable to assist other states could add a lot of value to the overall ecosystem of aviation. And I think the area of cybersecurity is one of the areas that we need to look at those champion states who can help other states, either in the region or in different regions. As I said, this is a global initiative, this is a global effort, and we should all work together towards this objective to have a more resilient industry in front of all those cyber attacks. Of course, from a government perspective, it's very difficult to bring perpetrators to justice because apparently it is the attack can happen outside borders. So this is the global framework and the convention that needs to be ratified, especially Beijing Convention and Protocol. This will help the globe to try to bring those people to justice, even if they are practicing their bad intentions from across the border. I think the audience have heard enough from me today, so I'll try to be a little bit silent and give maybe the chance to the other panelists who can express themselves in a better way. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. As I have the chance to moderate, I may ask questions later on, so it's not because they are done speaking that they are quiet until the end. For the next speaker, I will invite Patricia Reverdy to present the work of ECAC in cybersecurity. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the United Arab Emirates for inviting us to this event and to contribute and sharing information about what ECAC does about cybersecurity. So we all know the importance of cybersecurity in our everyday life. We live with it. Identity theft, the banking system are things that we see in the press, in the media on a regular basis. But we all know also that it does impact our aviation system, because our aviation system is not immune to cyber threat. Give me some figures. In Europe, in 2019-2020, there was an increase of more than 500% of cyber attacks that were reported to Eurocontrol. where there were more than 700 cyber attacks on airlines in 2020 and more than 150 attacks on airports. In 95% of the cases, these cyber attacks were financially motivated, and they ended up with 55% in cases where we had financial losses. So it's not just about security in terms of the traditional way of thinking security, terrorist activity. It is also about business for our industry. And these are the cases that we know, because we also know that there are a lot of cases that are not necessarily reported to the different agencies. So the figures that we have seems to be high, but they are much higher in reality. So our aviation sector is a system involving a wide range of government organizations, ministries, state organizations, but as well as industry and organization in the supply chain. So we have to think differently from the traditional aviation security culture that we have, and we need to prepare a broader perspective on this. ECAC policy and what our member states, our 44 member states do, is to set goals in how to achieve cyber resilience, and also to give flexibility in the range of options that will best achieve the outcomes that we wish to have. And this is how we harmonize measures across the 44 member states in Europe. Thinking more broadly also offers a possibility that a best practice from the wider community can be relied upon to inform and improve the way our individual member states approach cybersecurity measures. And this is also an opportunity for us to learn for other sectors than aviation and to improve our own sector, because aviation can do that, and we do it much more than any other sectors. And that has a great potential also for the future. The means of developing policy and regulating measures or ensuring consistency in our collective defense against cyber threat, which is typically a cross-border type of threat, is also varied. Many European states have aviation-specific, cyber-specific agencies dealing with aviation safety or security, but cyber risk don't respect these kind of boundaries. And we have to fit cybersecurity in a much bigger picture, and we need to act differently than we have been doing in the past to make sure also that the aviation community's voice is heard. So what is ECAC's approach to cybersecurity? ECAC has been working on cybersecurity since 2008. This was the first time that we have briefed our Directors General of member states about cybersecurity opportunities, but most essentially the risks that we face as a sector. So this is not a new topic for us. It has been on our agenda for more than a decade now. ECAC mission overall is to ensure the safe, secure, and sustainable development of civil aviation. So we do assist our member states to effectively protect their assets and become more cyber resilient. Our member states have different government structure, and we do recognize that, and the way we approach cybersecurity also recognize that. So we're trying to build consensus among 44 states and also in consultation with the different industry associations. So we do work closely with partner state and industry representation organization in what we call a cybersecurity group, which was created back in 2009. This group brings together our member states, industry, and when I say industry, this is industry at large. This is the airlines, this is the airport, but it's also the equipment manufacturers, because we see a lot of vulnerabilities on equipment manufacturers, especially linked to networking issues, and it brings the aircraft manufacturers as well. So it's really a wide group, and we also benefit from the cooperation of different observer states. So these groups and the history of this group gives us also an evolving archive, helping us to identify the strengths and also the needs for change. We do develop also a lot of policy recommendation and guidance, addressing, of course, an address to the Civil Aviation Authority of our member state, but also we try to align them with industry best practices, because we think that the two go hand in hand. This gives us a body of tried and tested material which are regularly updated to ensure that they are current. So basically every 6 months we do review our sets of guidance material just to make sure that we are still up to date. because cyber is a domain that evolves much faster than maybe any other domain in aviation. We also provide our member states with technical assistance to meet the diverse needs of our member states with different national challenges, and they have also different demands because we have a variety of states, and we try to keep on improving our tools as well all the time. So our experience now shows that facilitating information sharing is critical to understanding the threat and to also ensuring mitigation that is effective over time. Staying current is the most challenging aspect of dealing with this threat that is constantly evolving in terms of capability. It's a dynamic threat, and it's a threat where the threat actor can be malicious, disruptive, or both at the same time. So ECAC has focused its work on its study group, and I mentioned that already, and this group shares its expertise by bringing a lot of experts from member states together, and this group has a mandate to develop guidance material that then benefits to all the wider community. So this group is also doing some benchmarking with what other regions and what other organizations are doing, just to make sure that they keep abreast of the evolution of best practice around the world. We do face a number of challenges, including the role of our aviation authorities in harmonizing the measures across Europe, and we do that also in cooperation with other European organizations such as the European Union or EASA. Overall, the objective remains the same, it's cyber resilience. Then we also face a challenging regarding people. We have a shortage of cybersecurity experts in aviation. We have a lot of experts in aviation, and we have a lot of experts in cybersecurity. But the two together, combining one person, is rare. So we do struggle to have the right level of expertise in all our member states. Some of our member states do have them, but not all of them. So we need to work on that, and we need to increase this. We also noticed that a number of our member states have been using the cybersecurity expertise from agencies focusing on cybersecurity, but these people come with a background that is not aviation. So you need to create a family which is really aviation security plus cybersecurity together in order to be most efficient. So this is a shared approach that we're also trying to promote. We also have other sets of challenging at the moment. I'm not going to go through all the detail, but I just want to mention AI. There's a lot of work today about AI and AI application for aviation. There is a great potential with AI, and many of our member states are working on AI national strategy. Some of them are AI strategy altogether, some do apply to civil aviation. AI brings opportunities, but it brings risk. And we need to think risk when we are developing new AI application so that the opportunity don't turn into a worse situation for us. And there are a lot of European agencies working on making sure that our AI application, for example, in the ATM world, do bring a result. Because we need to be able to trust the data and make sure that the data have not been compromised. Then you have people. And a few speakers before have already mentioned the challenges that we face regarding people. We need to focus also on the human factors because our success depends on human, especially in cybersecurity. And that's why we focus also a lot of our efforts about awareness and education of different experts. One of the key domains of expertise of ECAC is capacity building. We do provide our member states with a wide range of capacity building activities, and we base these capacity building activities on the recommendations that the study group is developing. I promise I will not go through all the details of the different guidance materials that we have, but you can see on the slide different domains of where we have developed recommendation, guidelines, very practical things, not the theory of things, but practical thing on how you mitigate the measures. And this is what we share with our member state. And typically the one we are working on it at the moment is the aviation screening equipment, where we had already a high-level set of recommendations, and now we go deeper into the system in order to make sure that our, for example, EDS and other equipment that we deploy are cyber resilient, so to say, as well. Talking capacity building, this is an area where cybersecurity has gained some momentum in recent years, and we basically focus on improving the capacity in our member states to understand cybersecurity, also to put in place mitigation measures that are effective. So we do invest in people, But we don't only invest in people in our region, we also have opened all our capacity building to the other regions. And we work very well with ICAO and AFCAC so that the member states in this region, for example, can also use exactly the same capacity building tool that we have for ECAC member states. So this is exactly the same thing that we do share. And we strongly believe that this is a way forward to be inclusive and share and learn from each other on this. You'll see on the screen that there are different activities. Some are awareness, some are much more into details in terms of how we do things. And just to give you an example, the focus at the moment, after years and years of having awareness workshop and training courses, is really how do you inspect the deployment of cybersecurity measures at airports. And since 2020, 2 years now, we have a new, no longer new, but the training courses for national inspectors on how they can inspect and make sure that the measures in place are effective. So that is really the priority at the moment, and we're already working on the next generation of training course on that. You'll see the word value in the slide. Why values? We think that people protect better what they share and what the values that they share. And if they like it, they will better protect it. So we need also to have an understanding of the importance of cyber to our industry so that people will protect it better and will understand what they do and why measures are important. Because sometimes they don't understand why it's important. They don't understand what it means. So we are working a lot about this approach as well so that there is shared values in our community. Coming to the conclusions, in the given time that I was given by the moderator, I just wanted to mention people, ECAC tools, but also information sharing. So the value proposition that I've put is based on security by design for our technologies. It's based on monitoring our system and monitoring people. Because someone said earlier, trust is not the option for security, it's trust but verify. Somebody says there is no trust. We are trust but verify approach. And also we build on effective governance and leadership. Our aviation system is best when we are liable to a threat and we use best practices in designing effective mitigation. So our system grows stronger as we share information and we share also our expertise. So it's learning from our mistakes as well. And we place a lot of importance on that. And that's why we also believe in tools like vulnerability assessment where we can learn from where we are weak in the system and improve. Aviation has already proven itself as an effective learning system. With cyber, we don't have the luxury of being complacent. So we have recognized the risk and we need to manage it, and we need to manage it together. Our goal is to be as effective as possible, earning also the trust from the traveling public and from the aviation community at large on our cybersecurity regime and measures. So we know that this can only be achieved by being open, inclusive, open also to new ideas, and maintaining our commitment to learning and growth as we innovate and invest. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. May I invite Bernard Lim, our last speaker for this session? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm Bernard Lim from the Singapore Ministry of Transport. Thank you to the organizers, United Arab Emirates, for inviting me to this session. I'll try to keep it brief, but most important, let me ask you a few questions. How many of you were paying attention to what Admiral Perkowski was saying in his speech? Come on. All right. How many of you were paying attention to what Director General Al-Suwaidi was saying this morning in his speech? Okay, I'm going to test you. And how many of you were paying attention to President Sakitano's speech today? Of course. Ladies and gentlemen, if you listen to what they had said, what I'm going to share with you have some, you would say it's overlapping, but I would say it's emphasis of points that we must never forget if we are going to talk about cybersecurity and how important it is. So, first of all of us say we are in the aviation industry, but do we know how large is the industry? What is the ecosystem? We use that word easily, but the ecosystem comprises of many players. I think some of us even forget on a day-to-day basis. They comprise of many parties, as you can see. But more importantly is the role of technology. there are some truths and sad truths I have to share with you. And the truth is you and I cannot stop the development, improvement, and application of technology in aviation. We can't stop it. That's the truth. The sad truth is we cannot stop bad people from also wanting to exploit it, to destroy it, and to bring unlawful interference to our system. First truth and sad truth. The second truth and sad truth I'll share with you is that cybersecurity is a lot easier as a weapon to be acquired compared to the traditional security types of weaponry that we are talking about to disrupt aviation. It's a lot cheaper. For example, you go to an internet cafe and pay a 15-year-old kid, and I'm sure, hey presto, in 30 minutes, he'll be able to do something. And that is the sad truth. And the third truth and sad truth is that in security, we always talk about the single point of failure. In cybersecurity, it's any point of failure. It's not just single, it's any. It can come from anywhere and any time. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 emphasized and showed us that we are more reliant on technology because the situation demanded it. But that situation is the new normal. We are not going to go back to pre-COVID days and say, let's slow down technology for aviation. It's not going to happen. In fact, the demand for technology in aviation, artificial intelligence, robotics, fifth generation, you name it, it's going to come. But it is going to come with a price, and that's what we are here to talk about today. There are only 4 points I'd like to share with you in terms of national frameworks for cybersecurity, and the first is called cognizance. When I talk about cognizance, is we need to understand our threat environment. If you listen to Admiral Pekoski's presentation just now, it was the first point he brought up is, do you know your environment? If you don't know your environment, how are you going to protect it? Number 2, we need to recognize that cyber attacks can come from anywhere. You don't know when it's going to happen, you don't know why it's going to happen, but it is going to happen. Amongst cognizance is that, have you identified your critical systems? Many of us will swear blind and say, yes, we have. Do you have cyber defenses? Yes, we have. Is it adequate? Silence, because you don't know. The truth is you will never know until you've tried it out. Now, more importantly is you need to have plans. You need to have the SOPs. You need to have the procedures. I would also suggest, if it's possible, because in an airport environment, you have many security operational centers belonging to different airport agencies. Can you bring them together for cyber? Because remember, it's not a single point of failure. It's an any point of failure situation. If you can bring them together, that's great. If you can't, please try. Communication and collaboration is the second principle I'd like to mention. We talked about it in many presentations. But when we talk about communication and collaboration, the first thing I suggest is, do you have a dedicated cybersecurity team looking at this issue? If you don't have one, please start having one. And they need to look at various factors and not just in your organization. They need to look outside. For example, are you talking to the people handling energy supply to your facility? Because you do not regulate them, but if something happens to them, the aviation system is affected. What about the telecoms people? What about the power, water, utilities, you name it? Aviation is not just enclosed within a certain parameter of our own, and we say it doesn't affect others and others don't affect us. With cyber, it cuts across all parameters. And that's where that interface has to happen between aviation ecosystem and the wider infrastructure and economic ecosystem, if you want to call it that way. Now, I'd say promoting a culture of incident management is very important. In safety, we talk about just culture. Can we try it for cyber? Meaning, if an incident happens, don't hide it under the carpet as if it never happened. We need to be prepared to say something has happened. Now, as senior management as you are, I believe you are very kind and gentle people. So taking a punitive action for people who are prepared to tell you an incident has happened is not going to work. You want them to tell you. Cyber is the other way around. You want people to tell you that something bad has gone on. Because seriously, if I will ask all of you now to check your mobile phones and you see my face appearing on it, you won't know, am I playing a joke or is it a cyber attack, correct? So the more willing your people are, in terms of reporting a cyber incident, the faster you solve the problem. But if there's a culture of fear, I'm not going to tell it because I'll get into trouble, it's not going to work. And this is not just aviation, it's everywhere. So that is going to be quite important. Competency. This is a tough one. Do you have trained people in cybersecurity in your organization that can seriously help you deal with the situation? They are in high demand, but we need to look at getting these people in as fast as you can. Do you have reliable hardware? More importantly is, let me tell a story. There was a year I was asked to look at another organization's challenges. And I looked at it, their equipment was new, everything was perfect. And we found the cause of the problem was called maintenance. Your maintenance contractors, for example, in the airport, many times are outsourced. You honestly don't know who's maintaining your system, I can tell you, even for myself. And you better want to think about that, because if you let someone unknown, remember there's zero trust was what Admiral Pogorski talked about. This is important. If you don't know who's maintaining your system, you're actually putting your system in the hands of someone that you don't even know if you can trust. And that's going to be very dangerous. In cyber, don't try it. I'd like to also just share. Business continuity and cyber incidents come with 3 I's. Inform, investigate, and improve. Inform, investigate, and improve. If you think about that culture of inform, investigate, and improve, and make that a mantra, make it a natural course of action, you will get people coming forward to inform you, you can investigate it, and you can improve on it. And that's going to be quite critical. Engage cyber external auditors if you have to, although you might not really trust them sometimes, but they might give you a new opinion. My last point is on commitment. Top management always sets the tone, and that's important. My question to all of us here is, at the top management level, can we make cybersecurity a hygiene factor of aviation? Safety is a hygiene factor. Security is a hygiene factor. Facilitation is a hygiene factor. We are looking at environment sustainability as a hygiene factor. What about cybersecurity? Shouldn't cybersecurity have a place as a hygiene factor, because it is everybody's problem? Didn't we hear that? We were saying it's everybody's responsibility. So it must be a hygiene factor, and let's start thinking about it in the aviation system. Now, for top management, you have another problem of balancing the costs. We hear everywhere, let's invest in better hardware, let's train people, build in resources. You are not limitless in your resources. You need to decide what's critical and where are the pain points that you need to deal with. And that's important, because if you invest wrongly, it's not going to help. If you invest too much, it's not going to help either, because somewhere else in the aviation system is going to give way. It's a tough one, but you need to deal with it. Collaboration, participating in exercises. Critical point is what I said this morning, I shared in the other forum, is about culture and mindsets. Ladies and gentlemen, mindsets is not just a management issue. Mindset belongs to everyone in the organization. The last man and woman on the ground, if they give their password or they let someone else use their equipment, that is in itself an infiltration of your entire system. You need to build that mindset of 2 things. One, while we say zero trust is one mindset in terms of being careful and being on guard, but at the same time, we need to build the mindset of trust. Within the organization, I trust you and you trust me that we will do the right thing to protect this organization from a cyber attack. It cuts both ways. And if you can trust your colleagues down the line to do the right thing, and they can trust you to protect them to do the right thing, we are in business. My last point is that we keep saying everyone has a role, including you. You sitting here and me standing here, we can set the tone. My takeaway is, have you started? And when are you going to do it? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time, for preparation, for all the information shared, and I will say with all participants at the roundtable this morning, many things that were shared this morning. So thank you very much for our host also.
Thank you so much.